Hi everyone, welcome back to Infinite Jess. I am Jess Kleinschmidt of MLB.com's Cut 4, and I'm really excited for this episode. I'm excited for all the episodes, but I'm like super duper excited for this one because we're talking about the man, the myth, the legend, 6-time All-Star, World Series champ, Cy Young Award winner, Justin Verlander, and I love him. I think he's wonderful, but he doesn't always get a warm reception. So in this particular story, this particular Cut 4 that we fell in love with, Justin Verlander was booed by Yankees fans. And this was a recent game, the Astros against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. And as he left the mound after his outing, he had a very solid outing, the Yankees fans booed him. So go ahead and take a listen to this.
Good work by Justin Verlander. He's going to be a welcome man in that Astros dugout.
Verlander on his way out. Astros fans here in the Bronx give him a cheer as the Astros lead 4-1.
You kind of feel bad for him, right? Poor thing. No. If you watched the clip, you noticed he took off his cap. He tipped the cap. That's like a sign of respect. You saw the Derek Jeter kid that did that? That's a sign of respect. So later on in the post-game interview that the wonderful MLB.com Astros beat writer Brian McTaggart got, Justin Verlander thanked people, the Yankees fans, for booing him. And he called it a term of endearment. That's what we're going to talk about today. And I have two amazing guests. I have Cut 4's own Chris Landers, who is my first Cut 4-er. Cut 4 is a thing. I just discovered it. And he's been on very heavily on that Justin Verlander beat. He wrote about this story, and he made a really cool post about how this is Justin Verlander's not only probably his best season of his career, but he's pitching the best of all time. GOAT, if you will, for you hip kids that use terms like that. And then I have Bryan Hoch, who is MLB.com's Yankees beat reporter, who I absolutely love to Reese's Pieces. And he's here too, and I'm really excited for him. So let's get started. I'm going to give Chris Landers a call, and hopefully he answers. That would be nice of him. I'm actually finally having a Cut 4-er. I think that's a thing. Joining me.
Technical term.
Yeah, so Chris Landers is here, and I'm excited because he has bragging rights. He gets to rub it in everybody's face that he's the first Cut 4 on Infinite Jess. I don't even know the name of my own show. It's fine. But you've been heavily on this Justin Verlander beat, which is exciting because you wrote a couple of things, and what we're talking about initially is this booing story. And we wanted to do the quick clip of Justin Verlander post-game. We already went over what happened. So here it is here.
So did you relish the boos coming off the field? Looked like you had some fun with it, tipping the cap?
Yeah, I kind of expected. I didn't get as many boos when they announced my name pregame as I thought. But coming off the field, definitely got a fair amount of boos. Hey, I've come to find that here in Yankee Stadium it's a term of endearment, so thank you. That was my tip of the cap.
Landers, when you got the go-ahead to write about this, what were your initial thoughts about what was going on with Justin Verlander?
My first thought was excitement. I think I'm a big fan of more beef in baseball. I think baseball always needs more beef.
Right.
And this started way back in the winter when the Yankees signed traded for Giancarlo Stanton, and Justin Verlander was like, hold on, guys, we have a World Series ring. You're not the team to beat yet. So this was sort of like a chapter 2, and it was great. I mean, you could just see, my favorite part of the whole clip is that you can see on Justin Verlander's face how much he's enjoying the whole thing. Like, he loves that he's being booed. He loves that he's trolling Yankee fans for booing him. He loves that he had just dominated the Yankees for, I think, over 6 innings at that point. Mm-hmm. It was great. I think, there's a long and storied tradition of Yankee fans booing opposing players who are really good. You think back to Pedro in, the heyday of Yankees Red Sox around the turn of the millennium. And I think it's great. I think, obviously, you don't want brawls or anything, but beef is good. A healthy beef is always good for baseball. And so yeah, I was really excited to write about it.
Well, and Michael Clare would love that you brought in the beef to this conversation. He loves those beefy boys and the beef scenarios. So that's great. So you've also continued on this Justin Verlander beat, and not to mention in this, let's go back to the outing though. He had a great outing, 6 2/3 inning, 5 strikeouts, 5 hits, 1 run scored on him, no walks. So as he's walking off the field, you're kind of sitting there like, all right, we always knew Justin Verlander was good, but like, let's add some more stats into it. And you actually wrote a piece on this, and there's this graphic that you wrote about with him, and he's in some pretty stellar company. You know, his K9 rating is better than Seavers and I believe Roger Clemens. And then his whip is better, as this post went out, than Pedro Martinez. So as you're going through all these numbers, like I said, we always knew Verlander was good, but what was these stats you looked at? You're like, all right, this seals the deal. This guy's kind of immortal.
Yeah, it was funny. I started just sort of on a whim, and I wasn't expecting much. You know, I just was sort of poking around and noticed his numbers with the Astros both last year and this year, and figured, you know, okay, let's see how good this is, just for fun. And he matched up much better than I thought with, you know, the greatest pitching seasons in baseball history. You know, we're talking 1968 Bob Gibson, you know, as you mentioned, 70 Seaver, you know, the best pitching that we've ever seen. And his numbers are really right there. I think the one that stuck out for me was, you know, in my mind, turn of the millennium Pedro is sort of the pinnacle of pitching, mostly,
Right.
you know, partly because I was young and just getting into baseball when that happened. So in my mind, that was larger than life. But he really is, you know, when you consider how good offenses were back then and how dominant he was, I think that's the best pitching, some of the best pitching we've ever seen. And as you mentioned, Verlander, I think he has a better ERA plus by like 60 points on 1999 Pedro.
Mm-hmm.
He has a better whip. I think his whip's on pace to be the lowest of all time.
You mentioned he wants to pitch until he's 45. Do you want to live in a world where not just Justin Verlander is on the mound at the age of 45, but we can see pitchers pitching up until 45?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am scared of mortality and of my heroes getting old, so I want them all to pitch forever. And why can't we all just be? I want a million Bartolo Colons. I want everyone pitching until they're, you know, 50 or not. I don't care, as long as they want.
Me too. And that's why I kind of, you know, and that's all baseball. Like, I'm not ready to say goodbye. That's why I love David Ortiz. He was playing until he was 87 years old, like still doing it. And I loved that. That's a DH conversation. I don't want to bring that up quite yet. Cool. So have you ever been booed?
Have I ever been booed?
Yeah.
I have not. Well, no, I have not been booed. I had to think about it, but no.
You really do. Like, I think people
Have
boo
you?
me with their eyes a lot. A lot. They're like, I'm like, sorry, that was another dad joke, but what are you going to do?
You know,
Cool.
if we expand booing to mean like expressing disapproval in some way, then yeah, I get booed all the time.
Yeah, I think
All the time.
that's pretty much how people talk to me. If it's not like normal, yeah, I get booed constantly. All right, Landers, thanks so much, and we will talk soon. So thank you for joining me, Chris Landers. I like saying his name like the whole thing because it's fun. If you want to follow him on Twitter, you can't. You know why? Because he's smart and doesn't have a Twitter. He's thinking. So, like Landers said, not only was it a cool story, it's okay to be booed by Yankees fans because it's a term of endearment, but Verlander is phenomenal. You're seeing the names of the category, these different pitching categories, these different stats that he's involved with. You know, Seaver, Pedro Martinez, Roger Clemens, amazing names, and it's not even a big deal. And he still has time left, and he wants to pitch until he's 45, which that's awesome. I love that. So, thank you, Landers, for joining me. Next up, I have Bryan Hoch, who I said was very excited to join us. So here, I'm going to give him a call now. Well, hey, Bryan, thanks so much for joining me. I'm just excited to have you on Infinite Jess, first of all. But we're really excited about this story, mainly because I'm curious. I'm not surrounded by Yankees fans like you are, but is it endearing to get booed by a Yankees fan?
Probably. If you're coming into Yankee Stadium and you've got the fans booing you, you're probably doing something right on your side of the ball. And I think it's almost a badge of honor in a lot of ways to be booed by a Yankee fan.
Yeah. So if it were any other fan base, do you think it'd be the same reaction?
I just think Yankee fans are some of the loudest. I think in a lot of ways that the fans are so passionate, especially on the East Coast. I think Yankees and Red Sox fans, the two of those fan bases, I feel like can be the most kind of vulgar in a lot of ways, the most violent in a lot of ways. But it's because they're passionate. They love their teams. And that's why I think it's so much fun when those two teams get together and they go head to head, be it in Boston or New York.
Yeah, I agree. I love a good rivalry. I love knowing that somebody could get hurt at the end of the game for some weird reason. It's so bad. I'm so sick in the head, but it is what it is. So you mentioned, there's a lot of, I guess, energy and stuff. What's it like on a like a random night at Yankee Stadium, what's that vibe like? Because I feel like I hear from managers and players, it's unreal when they're pitching at Yankee Stadium. What does it feel like?
I think that when it's good, and it has been good a lot, especially when the Yankees and Red Sox are good at the same time, as happens to be the case this year. I mean, we're going to have a Yankee-Red Sox summer. It looks like those two teams are going to go at it the whole year, and I really think that it kicks it up another notch for sure. You know, we've had it in years past where it's almost been a little bit dead, but I think that last year you saw it in the postseason, especially these two teams when Cleveland came in for the ALDS, when they played Houston and the ALCS. It was a real home field advantage. And you look back at the 2017 postseason for the Yankees, they didn't lose a single home game. I don't think that's an accident. I think that it's almost a 10th man on or 11th man on the field for them. You know, you heard Aaron Judge talking about the building was shaking. The building was alive. And when somebody got a big hit, you look into the stands and people are jumping and screaming and throwing their beers up in the air. It's really cool. So when that place is packed and it gets loud, I think it's better now than it was even in 2009 because I don't remember it being that alive in 2009 when they won the World Series.
That's awesome. I'm so jealous. Like I used to play powder puff in front of like 30 people, and that was huge for me. So I can only imagine. But when you talk to the guys and they know that they're going up against Verlander, what is their mentality knowing they're going up against a guy like of this magnitude?
I think that if you look at what Verlander's done the last year plus or so, I mean, they know it's going to be a tough matchup. I think that you hope to hit his mistake. You go up there knowing that you have to respect his fastball, but he's also got other pitches that are going to put you away. So you got to go up there kind of thinking fastball and adjust to everything else. But they know they're going to have their work cut out for him. And they hit him a little bit better the second time around, but down there in Houston, he really just dominated for 8 innings. I think he struck out like 25 guys or something crazy. Like I think it was 15 or something. It seemed like 25, but
800 guys. He struck out 800 guys. Yeah,
I think so. And
yeah, and on the flip side, Verlander has nothing but respect for the Yankees bats, and that was cool to hear in the post game interview. He mentioned, you know, I was getting booed, but I know who I'm pitching against, and you kind of feel that. Most important question, Bryan, have you ever been booed?
Ooh, have I ever been booed? Well, maybe. I mean, by the people on Twitter, for sure. Some of them have.
Yes.
I'll tell you a story. About 2 weeks ago, I threw out a ceremonial first pitch at the Trenton Thunder game, and I bounced it. And so I'm sure somebody there booed me. Yeah. So hopefully I'll never do that again, but I remember what they told me. They said, aim high above the catcher, you know, throw it higher than you're supposed to. And I said, I'm just going to buzz it right down the middle. No problem.
It's nerve-wracking. I don't think I've ever been asked to do it.
It's hard.
I know. I'm like, I don't know how y'all do it. And they make it look so easy when everybody else does it. And you're like, oh, you're going to throw a strike. But then I couldn't imagine. Oh, gosh. No, it gives me anxiety just thinking about it. I'm like sweating. But you've been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. And make sure you guys are following Bryan Hoch on Twitter, and he's wonderful. Thanks, Bryan, so much.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for having me.
All right, bye. Thank you for joining me, Bryan. That was Bryan Hoch, MLB.com's Yankees beat reporter, who is fabulous. And there it is. I mean, you have to exude confidence if you want to play in the bigs, right? You want to have a resume like Justin Verlander. You have to exude that confidence. So it doesn't stress anybody out, but it's nice to know that me being booed for all my awful, they're good. They're really good. Dad jokes on Twitter is a good thing, right? Right? Okay. It's settled. Thank you guys so much for joining me on episode 2 of Infinite Jess, and I will catch you next time.